Hi there. It's great to see you this week. I'd like to share with you something that we studied this past Tuesday night in our Bible study, and it's a thought that's been resounding in my mind. It's from Mark 7, verses 6 and 7. It's Jesus speaking to the scribes, the Pharisees, Sadducees. He said, "Well did Isaiah prophesy of you hypocrites, as it is written, this people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. And in vain they worship me, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men." And it's the part about people honoring God with their lips and their heart still being far from Him that just kind of really been moving my heart, that we not just go through the motions. And years ago I came across a book that I really like, and I wanted to share you some excerpts from that book that speak to this idea of heart and lips and having them match up. And the book is by a writer. His name is Donald McCullough, and the book is called The Trivialization of God, The Dangerous Illusion of a Manageable Deity. Let me read to you a few excerpts, and we'll have just a few comments at the end. Here on page 13, he says, "The New Testament warns us, open quote, offer to God an acceptable worship with reverence and awe, for indeed our God is a consuming fire." That's Hebrews 12:28. But reverence and awe have often been replaced by a yawn of familiarity. The consuming fire has been domesticated into a candle flame, adding a bit of religious atmosphere, perhaps, but no heat, no blinding light, no power for purification. And it may well be revealed that the worst sin of the church at the end of the 20th century, this book was written in the 90s, has been the trivialization of God. And then he goes on to talk about an individual Christianity, an individualistic Christianity. He says, an individual Christianity leads inevitably to an individualistic God. Those who have suckled at the breast of American culture will not easily be weaned from the milk of individualism. Because sin in its rudimentary form is the attempt to be like God, the attempt to seize God's place at the center and to take control. It's essentially self-centeredness. And he goes on to write this: "How easy it is to define authentic spirituality according to my particular experience and expression of it. And when I do, I end up with a very different God from the one revealed in Christ. A God who transcended objectivity has been pared down to the contours of my subjectivity. A God, consequently, too trivial to lift me out of myself and beyond the distortions of my flawed experience." And goes on to write, "The problem arises when we forget the vast difference between our view of God and the reality of God, when we equate the picture in the lens with the whole of divine truth. And any God I use to support my latest cause, or who fits comfortably within my understanding or experience, will be a God no larger than I, and thus not able to save me from my sin, or inspire my worship, or empower my service. And any God who fits the contours of me will never really transcend me, never really be God. And any God who doesn't kick the bars out of the prison of my perceptions will be nothing but a trivial God." I thought those really interesting words, because Jesus is concerned about the heart. And it's our heart with which we worship God. And it's out of the heart that we begin to have our mouth controlled and our mind controlled. And I encourage you this week, take a step back, take a breath, smell the roses. Spiritually, smell the roses. Be thankful for God's grace. And be aware that many of us, at different times, we tend to remake God into our image. It's not a laughing matter, but many people conjure up a God that has a very low bar to cross. That's not a God that will get them into heaven. And my prayer for you this week is that you have a good uplifting time of your private worship, and that you will just let God know how much you love Him, and you're thankful for Him, and that you want to know that you're worshiping Him in spirit and truth. And you want to do that. And I know if we ask, I know He'll answer. God bless you. Have a great week, and we'll see you next